hard-favored rage. And there is a little bit of that in cyber defense that I don't think we talk about enough, which is like, punching back and making sure your organization knows that it's in a fight, I think is good. So we heard about agents on the attack. We heard about agents on the defense. This morning, if you went to KPMG's breakfast, we heard about agents on the cooker. But now we're going to talk about agents as your workforce. So fascinating sort of more positive take on what agents can do, a showcase of how they're evolving from a kind of like a passive process tool to being a proactive teammate. So I'm going to invite Tony onto the stage, who's the SVP of Customer Care and Development at Qurrent. A quick kind of 10, 15-minute tantalizer about how you could think about using agents differently. Tony.
Well, thank you, Ivan. My name is Tony. I work for a company called Qurrent. We're going to try to not get a speeding ticket, but get really close to it. What we provide is fully managed AI workforces as a service to our customers. So what does that mean, fully managed? Well, yesterday, Google announced that they have a new model, Gemini 3. And now you have to rebuild your entire AI workforce around it. Well, for our customers, they don't have to lift a finger. Their AI workforces get an upgrade, as long as it's relevant to their specific process. Furthermore, we guarantee the outcomes and the performance. What that means is you don't have to worry about hallucinations. You don't have to worry about misinformation. You don't have to worry about security, privacy. We take care of all of that for you. So what you're actually seeing right now on the board, every single tile is a team of AI agents that we call an AI workforce. They're specifically dedicated to a specific process within the operations and the business, largely around finance back office processes. So invoice to cash, procure to pay, et cetera, et cetera. There are some AI workforces that are right now working in production on behalf of our customers for sales, marketing, HR, customer support. My favorite KPI here is the one in the top middle, the 2.3 tasks completed. I think about this as soul-crushing tasks like documentation, data entry, stakeholder management that we saved from humans having to do. So I really like that. All right, let's go to the slides. So we talked quite a bit yesterday about barriers to get to value, even this morning. And a lot of the barriers point to adoption. And the adoption is based on fear, based on uncertainty, lack of knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. But if you think about text messages, how did our parents and grandparents adopt text messages? It almost has universal adoption. And that's because it's prompting them. It's not asking them to log into an application, a web page, et cetera, to work with and get value out of that specific tool. So we're going to talk a little bit about when AI or the technology prompts you versus you having to prompt it. So to set the stage, I use this quite a bit to lead teams that I built in the past. HBR had this article back in the mid-90s about who's got the monkey. It's really talking about 5 different levels of initiative. So level 1, this is the lowest level of initiative. Your employee waits until you tell them what to do. Level 2 is they ask what they should be doing. Level 3, they propose, they come with an idea. They say, I think I should be doing this. Do you approve? And you get explicit approval. Level 4 is passive approval. They just act and give you some time to intervene if you feel compelled. And level 5 is full autonomy. And this requires a significant amount of trust. You have to believe that that employee will make the same decisions you will make out in the field. So how does this relate to AI? Today, a lot of the conversation around the best use of AI is still a co-pilot tool. Again, you have to log in, use an application, you have to prompt it, and it does have funny behaviors because it's not traditional software. But for such a powerful technology, it's still operating at the lowest level initiative. So what we want to do is convert the conversation to using AI as a digital workforce, a proactive, resourceful digital workforce that will take action and initiative. And maybe they'll ask for explicit approval, maybe they won't, depending on how you use it. If anybody's taken a Waymo, it's really interesting. The first 10, 15 minutes in a Waymo, everybody's worried that if it's gonna take the right turn, if it's gonna hit that dog, if it's gonna hop on a curb, et cetera, et cetera. But as soon as you're done taking pictures and videos of that experience, you're on your phone and you're not paying attention. You completely let go. Really interesting. All right, let's tee up the demo. But before we do, I want to talk to you a little bit about the customer. So we worked with a financial services customer that was experiencing massive growth. So financial services, highly regulated. They couldn't hire enough people. They couldn't even get their BPO, business process outsourcing, to have enough people to support their massive growth. So they were looking for operational leverage, but at the same time, they didn't want to compromise customer experience, because if you think about any sort of operational leverage, you're prioritizing. You're taking all your best employees and focusing on our best customers, and everybody else gets like the B team or C team. So they didn't want to make that sacrifice. So for this specific demo, I'll start with, I'll show you the issue resolution process, because it's very relatable experience. So this pay by bank company, let's go to, by the way, this is a live demo, which will be very exciting. Okay. This is your typical service incident management tool or application. If you can't see all the words, don't worry about it. I'll walk you through it. But imagine I'm at a gas station and I'm trying to use this pay by bank application that this financial services company is providing, but I can't pay. So I'm gonna email, probably through my phone, not my laptop, and say, at the pump, cannot pay. All right, that email now has been sent. So now as it works through our Wi-Fi, through the satellites, and make it back into our Wi-Fi to make it into this application, what we're gonna start to see are these digital AI workforces start to work. And how they're gonna work is really cool to see. Here you go, at the pump, need help. So there's my email, I cannot pay. So what the workforces are now doing is, who is this person? Are they actually a customer of ours? What recent transactions did they have? And how do you resolve this specific ticket? And it's gonna need to require access to a number of different things. Your CRM, your databases, maybe a repository full of unstructured information. And it's gonna go through all of that information to come up with a relevant resolution path that is gonna email back to me. All right, so let's see what happened. At first, looked into the CRM, Tony Co, customer ID, phone number, etc. And then it also logged that a frequency limit was the reason that my payment was not working. So they said, what are the AI workforce said, what are the recent transactions in the database that contributed to this decline or transaction? And so here's all the activity within my specific account, summary of transaction history, and here's the reasoning, the rationale. What thought process did they go through? They said, due to frequency limits, which restricts the number of transactions, offering an upgrade option is appropriate. So it emailed me back and said, your transaction was declined due to frequency limits, which is in place due to security reasons. If you want to request an upgrade, please let us know. But most customers may not fully understand the implications of that. What does it mean to increase or upgrade your frequency limit? So I'm gonna say, what does that mean? And so that's gonna make it through Wi-Fi, satellite, et cetera, but as it does that, you now have to reference a standard operating procedure or some sort of knowledge base to say, what is the definition of frequency limits? But when you copy and paste that into an email, who's actually asking what is it that it actually means, you might come up with a very technical technical definition of it. So this team of AI agents actually tagged a different support, level 2 support, to actually go ahead and translate what that technical definition of the frequency limit is. So frequency limits are security measures. On November 19th, you had 3 transactions where it exceeded your limit for that specific account. So now I actually understand the reason why I couldn't pay. So as a customer, I say, great, thank you for that information. Yes, please upgrade frequency limit. All right, so now that's going in there. Now, as a company, a financial services company, you're not going to give frequency limits to everybody. We just talked about, how, there's a lot of different ways you could hack the system. Who knows? Maybe I'm a bot trying to convince the company that, I'm Tony Ko. So at this point, the right steps to take is to tag a risk and payments disputes and regulations and compliance departments, all of those different departments that need to figure out, is this something that we should actually do? So there we see it. It tagged a risk review. And it said fraud cleared for customer C111002. Transaction history viewed, no suspicious patterns detected, identity verified, legitimate usage pattern confirmed, and device and location checks passed. Now you can put all kinds of checks in here. If you need more checks, if you need background checks, if you need social security credit checks, and all of that information will live within the risk review agent. It will hide and obfuscate all that sensitive information from all the other agents so that you protect your PI even further. And so at the end, your frequency limit has been upgraded successfully. Now you can transact. And at the very bottom right, it's marked as solved. And the beauty of this is all the documentation, the data entry, the drag and drop, the filling of the tags and different information is all captured in this incident management tool. There's no that digital AI workforces can do that is not discoverable. So that's tremendous for being audit ready, having observability into everything. So let's go back to the slides. All right, just as a recap, what was involved before resolving this ticket that took, 4 minutes? Level 1 customer support, they validated who I was in the CRM. It could be Salesforce, HubSpot, Virtuous, you name it. It could plug into any sort of application. Then it took that information, understanding that it's a frequency limit, and checked how many actual transactions I've had recently that would actually be relevant to it. And then I asked the question, what does that actually mean? So level 2 customer support was tagged, someone who's more knowledgeable about the SOPs. And this knowledge base could sit in a document, could sit in SharePoint, could sit in a content management system, you name it. And then a fraud and risk management team was tapped, as well as any sort of payments and disputes. So think about SOPs, new regulations, new laws that come through. How do you train your people to be up to date with the latest, making sure that they're adhering to that new compliance? This happens in seconds, not weeks and months. And then finally, resolution and closure and documentation of that specific ticket. Now, we talked a lot about adoption. Sure, if every single person who participates in this process was fully proficient in adopting AI, you could have the same types of gains and same type of outcome. But as soon as one person decides to take a little bit longer, the entire value chain of this entire process breaks. And so individual productivity doesn't necessarily translate into P&L gains that the CFO is going to see. So that's going to be really important. For this customer who is experiencing massive growth, their projection for the next 12 months, they were effectively able to take out 70% of the budget that they projected and reallocate that budget elsewhere. Imagine that. I mean, we're all in 2026 planning. If you could reallocate the budget and invest in other places, that's pretty tremendous. And furthermore, some of the customers that they interviewed and surveyed actually preferred interacting with our digital workforces than their human agents. So their experience is actually increasing as well. Yesterday, there was a report that was shared around, I think it was labor economics. They said 43% of companies are most concerned about AI adoption because their competitors are adopting faster. That's nearly half of the companies that were surveyed. Imagine competing with a company that has 100 human workers and thousands of digital workers who operate at level 3 of initiative or higher. They're all consistent. They're all A players. You know, I don't want to leave with like doom and gloom and panic. So maybe I could turn this around and say, imagine if you could hire 1,000 digital workers who operate at level 3 of initiative or higher. They're all A players. What would you do for your organization, for your employee experience, your customer relationship? How would that change your organization? The most common realization that our customers have is that they're now not just wrestling with technical debt, they're wrestling with operational debt. How do you redesign the process? How do we redesign the org? I know there's a lot of conversations around that, but that is actually real. And only because they can take their frontline workers away from the business as usual dumpster fires that they have to do. They have the best knowledge of how to redesign that process, not anybody else. So I'd love to share more. I'm here. We have a booth outside. Vishal is also here. He's in the back. We'd love to share more customer stories about how we've helped organizations with operational debt. Thank you.
Okay. So really interesting. Just an example of a company that's doing this, but this idea that those agents could get tasked and then join together. So make sure you got oversight of all of the agents. 2.3 million tasks completed is remarkable. And you'll also know that despite his attention on security, we've all got Tony's phone number now, because